Welcome to the Ultimate Type R FK8 Intake Challenge. I'm here with Randy Spar from 11/10, and I'm Fuzzy FK8, and we're going to go through the different offerings on the market right now, what's available, and we're going to put them on the dyno and see essentially what they do head to head. So I know we've kind of played with these things a few times. Randy, why don't you kind of give me an idea of what we got here and what the offering mix really is from the different manufacturers.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the intro. We got a good spread here of what's available on the market for the new FK8 Type R. I think all except for maybe one more brand. Starting on this side of the spectrum at about $80 US, we got a simple K&N panel drop-in filter.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to know that. Works off the factory air box.
Pretty much available for everything.
That's pretty much it. And then there's a company called PRL. They actually have this nice smooth silicone inlet pipe that does work with the factory air box to maximize airflow. So we're going to give that a shot with and without the K&N drop-in filter, see if there's any improvement with that.
Now I know this bad boy is probably like one of the industry staples. This is one of the first intakes that came out for Type R.
This is the Injen. Sells for about $380 US. It's a nice aluminum made pipe. It fits the factory math nicely, pretty easy to install. It's got some nice sound to it.
And it's a little bit of a old school traditional style.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
now, the one thing, sometimes an alloy like aluminum will hold a lot of temperature. So AFE goes one step further with their composite intake system called the Takeda system. It's a bit more money. It's about $399, so about $410 or so US for this system. So these are very comparable in price depending on what sort of specials are out there. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we got the Baller Eventuri intake at about $1,500 US. It's their latest evolution with the new filter design. I'm really excited to see if this one's actually going to pull in some mid-range torque and maybe some high-end.
yeah.
Is the car that we're putting on? Oh, we're using a Dynojet 240C dyno. It's an in-ground two-wheel drive. Tell us a little bit about the car that we're putting on right
it's
now.
actually, if you're on Instagram, it's George Giro's car. It's a white, championship white Type R. It's tuned on Honda, so actually I favor that for this test because the reality is we're going to get a real world tuned version of the vehicle as opposed to an untuned version that already has the fueling, has the air already done. So I think we're going to get a pretty accurate depiction out of, instead of spiking and things like that you get out of certain products that are untuned. So I'm kind of excited to see, once we put it through the ringers and the test process of, sound versus price versus performance, versus installation, what really is going to be the winner when you've got an $80 item and a $1,500 item. So I think with that said, let's fire up the machine and let's see what these bad boys can do.
Can't wait. All right, let's go.
So the first testing we've done, we've thrown down a baseline on the vehicle. It's run 330 wheel horsepower, and we put the K&N drop-in filter, and we've been able to realize a result of 6 wheel horsepower and 2 foot-pounds of torque. More than I probably expected. For an $80 drop-in filter, I really wasn't expecting that it was going to do that. So I guess kudos to that, and I guess maybe some challenge to the intakes that are coming up. You know what I mean? They're a lot more money. So we're going to put the original filter back in now, and we're going to install this PRL pipe, which coincidentally actually is pretty much identical to what comes in the Eventuri system now. So you're getting the Eventuri with this pipe included. So it'd be interesting to see by just taking this unit and putting the K&N drop-in filter and the stock air panel as to what this one product's going to do. So we'll put it back in the dyno and we'll see what we get back as a result.
Sounds good.
All right. So get to work, bro. The challenge continues. We've done all of the base testing on the vehicle, and then we put in the drop-in filters, and we've also went on to the PRL intake. And quite honestly, these events that have taken place so far in regards to result have actually been a little surprising. So the drop-in filters have actually given us 6 wheel horsepower, which I wasn't really expecting, and all the way up to 4 wheel-pounds of torque. And then we went over and we used the PRL system, and the PRL system adapted to the drop-in filters actually gave us a very up and down fluctuation between the torque and the horsepower that I wasn't expecting. So we actually got a lower horsepower number from the drop-in filter but a higher torque value, whereas when we went to the K&N filter we got a higher horsepower value and we got a lower torque value. So that there is kind of, I think, indicative of maybe the materials that are being used within the stock unit versus the other unit. So it's going to be interesting to go and see what the mediums for the other filters work with the other full intake systems that we're going to go on to. So let's move forward and see what it is that we can get out of those bad boys. Everybody likes a good unboxing video, so we've got Kenneth to go and show us what we've got in the Takeda intake. So Kenneth, you know, show us what you do best. Open it up and show us what's in there.
All right, we got an AFE Takeda in here. So basically, looks like we got instructions. Don't need those. Yeah, we got this intake here. Looks pretty cool. It's kind of plastic. There's 5 horsepower right there. License plate frame. This is where the and oh, here we go. There's a filter.
Kenneth,
there's your sticker.
This wasn't what I was expecting.
There's your sticker for your bumper. There we go.
I think we're going to let the techs install it now, and there might be something in the warehouse that we need taken care of, but thanks, Kenneth. I think we'll maybe look at a different way of doing our unboxings next time, but you know,
So what we have here is basically the creme de la creme of intakes for the FK8. This is the Eventuri. This is the final test that we're going to do. Eventuri has a patented design for their Evolution filter system that actually aids in increasing the flow and the velocity of the air going through here. It's pretty slick, very nice carbon work. You can definitely see where your money's going. And each part has a serial number, so you know, easier for service when you have to call Eventuri for anything. The one thing that sets Eventuri apart from all the other intakes is this little guy. So this is this additional intake that sits down below the airbox and captures air from the side near the wheel well. Be interesting to see if this actually helps on the dyno. Welcome back to the Ultimate Intake Challenge. We are using George's FK8 Type R. We got some interesting results. I bet everyone's dying to find out about that big investment, whether the Eventuri intake actually paid off or not. Dave, would you like to fill us in on the information there?
Sure. So the tail of the tape actually is quite interesting. So the baseline numbers that we started on with George's car were 330 wheel horsepower and 382 foot-pounds of torque. And the torque that showed over the testing range that we did really, ranged from 382 to 384 and some change. So we're really only looking at a 2 wheel-pound difference between all the intakes that we tested today, which I, in a lot of cases, thought was, unusual, but it's pretty static. So it's not these major fluctuations. Whereas when we look at the horsepower side, it kind of tells the tale and the story as to the difference of what's going on between different intakes. So that being said, the drop-in that we put which is essentially just the OEM casing with a K&N drop-in. We saw a 6 horsepower gain at the wheels, and then when we went to the stock panel and we used the PRL silicone joiner pipe, that actually gave us 331 wheel horsepower, so it was only a gain of 1 horsepower, but it gave us the highest torque on the day. It matched our highest torque on the day. Once we went and we put the aftermarket K&N, and we put that with the PRL silicone pipe, we actually saw the second highest figures of the day, which was a major surprise to me because its price point is quite a bit lower than the actual intake systems that we looked at today.
It's about 180 US combined
absolutely,
for both. Right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So if you want to talk about bang for your buck, that's definitely it. You're not going to get the same looks, that you're going to get with some of the other intakes, but
so let's remind everyone what George currently has: a Honda Tune and a full turbo back exhaust. That's it. Which octane are you running today?
93.
93 octane. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see, what are the other results?
So then once we get over to, your Injen, your AFE, and your Eventuri, which are, higher price point, full robust systems in comparison to the other units. The Injen intake, I think there'll be some lash that'll come back on this because there's a lot of people out there that haven't been happy with the performance of the Injen intake and say that it's a spiky intake, etc. We only saw 4 horsepower out of that intake. So I was surprised to see that. I ran that intake last year. We set some records with it. We did well with the car. So I was very surprised to see that in relation to the other intakes. When we go to the AFE intake, which is again another higher price point, box style, with a buried filter inside, we saw a matched horsepower and torque to our second best of the day, which was the PRL with the K&N drop-in. So, and then obviously what everybody wants to know, the piece of resistance, the most expensive intake on the market, and its fit and finish, everything like that, I think everybody will agree is it's top notch. It's carbon fiber, right? Everybody likes carbon fiber. So
what's the number? Come on.
So it came out to 348 wheel horsepower, which is an 18.2 horsepower over our baseline. Pretty significant, I'd say.
So it's almost 10 horsepower gain over the next best one.
It is, which is pretty significant.
So there you have it.
Yeah. The torque number, again, it's the same. But there's a big price point difference there. Right? So I think if you are looking for something that's the full meal deal and that's within your price point, it's hard to argue the numbers.
But it looks baller.
It does. It looks great.
It's beautiful, the fit and finish, the way it gets on there.
But I think
it'll be unique. I mean, I don't see too many of these guys out there running these intakes, right?
Yeah. But you know what? You may have a baller intake and have somebody show up with a PRL system with a K&N beside you, and you might be surprised at the same time. So I think it was a good real-world test. And just so everybody knows, every single one of our tests today was actually done with the hood closed. So it's more of a real-world example of what's there than it being an open air, you know, you're just in the dyno, everything like that. So I think it was a pretty fair comparison. And so that being said, I want to hear what it is, we want to hear what it is that you have to say. So let us know in the comments, and by all means subscribe so that we can provide you guys with more of this kind of information. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. So this is George, Randy, and myself, Fuzzy.